Welcome, everybody. I am Elena Salsitz. I am a longtime lecturer in the International Business Department, and I'm thrilled to be here and so happy that they've invited me again. And thank you all for joining us for the 7th annual case competition here at San Diego State University. First, I'd like to recognize and to thank our very generous sponsors that have made this case competition possible. San Diego College of Arts and Letters, San Diego State's Fowler College of Business, the Wendy Gillespie Center for Advancing Global Business that's represented here today by the Managing Director, Mark Ballum, and the Consortium for International Business Undergraduate Education, also known as QUIBI. I'd also like to recognize the Director of International Business, Dr. Ranin Kazemi, who's here today with us, and his outstanding team in IB, led by the case competition czar, Maricela, who is there, and Maribel Franco, Jason Tan, and Yang Jiao for managing and coordinating this competition. Yeah. We're very lucky today to have a group of exceptional judges and community business leaders that have volunteered their time to be here with us today. Mauricio Cazares, who's Vice President of Sales for Able Freight Services. Are you with us? Yes, thank you for judging this morning. And then this afternoon, for our final competition, we welcome and thank William Bill Perkins, not William Bill, you prefer Bill, right? Perkins, who is Vice President of Endeavor Bank. Thank you for being here. And Ken Cohen, who is a life sciences entrepreneur and also a lecturer at the Fowler College of Business. And now to our intrepid case competition teams. It's been a pleasure to host everyone this week from the schools that have competed this morning and today, and those include the University of San Diego, Tecnológico de Monterrey, Campus Agua Caliente, University of Tennessee, Michigan State, Loyola Marymount, Texas Christian, Bloomsburg University, Illinois State University, and University of Nebraska. I think applause for everybody is called for. And 3 of those teams will be competing here now. And those teams are Team Olmeca, Team Tacuba, and Team Viva. And here's how it's going to work. Each team will have a 15-minute presentation, followed by judges' Q&A, and only the judges will be asking questions during that period. Our moderator, Maricela, will be keeping us on time. And we do ask that everyone please remain seated during the presentations. So let's get started. Let's welcome our first finals competitors, Team Olmeca.
On average, a woman uses 12 beauty products a day. This equals to 168 potentially harmful chemicals for her skin and her body. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here with us today. We are Team Olmeca, and today we will be presenting to you the balance that Forest Essentials should obtain in their market between their brand identity and their expansion. My name is Thea Pantelic.
I am Pinak Lalit Kumar.
Hi, my name is Angelina Kapp.
And my name is Yonso Ro.
So first, we will walk you through our solution, the problem, as well as why we decided to implement that solution. We will tell you a little bit about the risks to that solution, and finally, we will implement that solution in the end. So the problem that Forest Essentials is facing is deciding if they should stay in India and engage with their current market or if they should expand abroad. Our team today has decided that Forest Essentials should expand, and into these 3 countries, Singapore, the United States, and the UAE. Now this will be very slow, very strategic. Now I will pass it off to Angelina to get into that further.
Thank you, Thea. Before taking a deeper dive into each of these 3 countries, it's first important to look at Forest Essentials' brand and what that means to them. Forest Essentials has 3 unique selling points. Their first selling point is their authentically sourced ingredients. All of their ingredients are chemical-free, They're not tested on animals, and they're preservative-free, which is an aspect of the company that customers truly value. Their second unique selling point is their Ayurvedic methods and recipes. All of their products are created to embody Forest Essentials' core values of purity and sensory pleasure. And finally, their third unique selling point is this idea of slow luxury. Their products are created using old-fashioned and traditional techniques. And lastly, it's important to look at Forest Essentials' long-term goal before deciding their future strategy on where to expand. Forest Essentials eventually hopes to become the global leader in luxurious Ayurveda based on traditional Indian formulations for holistic beauty. We think that Forest Essentials should expand internationally into our chosen 3 country markets for 3 main reasons. First, we're going to look at ease of trade. There's 3 main reasons why ease of trade is such a compelling argument for Forest Essentials to expand into our chosen countries, and that's because of the previous exports, trade tariffs, and enforcing contracts, which we're going to look at in more detail. First, looking at exports, we decided to begin our analysis by looking at the top 8 countries that India exports to. From here, we decided to eliminate the UK because Forest Essentials has already entered the UK market, and we wanted to find 3 countries for a new market strategy for Forest Essentials. Next, we decided to look at trade tariffs and tariff barriers. Clearly, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Indonesia are 3 countries that are outliers in this category, and they have some of the highest tariffs, which we think is going to be a big barrier to entry. So from here, we immediately eliminated these 3 countries. This left us with 5 countries, so we decided from here to look at their ease of doing business and where they were ranked for this. Clearly, Singapore stands out as one outlier country. They were ranked #1 in enforcing contracts and #2 in terms of their ease of doing business, which is why that market was so appealing for us. Unfortunately, the Philippines and Canada had some of the highest rankings in terms of their ease of doing business, so we decided to not move forward with those countries, and that left us with our 3 chosen country markets of Singapore, the United States, and the UAE, because they were ranked so high in their ease of doing business and enforcing contracts. Enforcing contracts is so important because Forest Essentials has such a strong relationship with their suppliers and distributors, and when they're expanding into these international markets, we want to make sure that they are following through on their contracts and they're able to ensure the highest quality ingredients are sourced for their customers. And now Young-So is going to talk about our next biggest argument for expanding into our chosen countries.
Thank you, Angelina. So I will now be going on to customer characteristics, which includes these 3 points. So first of all, we look at the purchasing power of each of these countries. So the 3 countries that we chose has a significantly higher purchasing power compared to the other countries that we've looked at. And this is vital because it means that the customers does have the means to spend on luxury goods. Our second factor is their attitude towards health, and we see this based on a recent survey that was done, which asked customers whether or not they looked at healthy ingredients in their food and beverages. And for these 3 countries, more than 50% of their customers say that yes, they look at whether or not their food and beverages contains healthy ingredients. And this is important because it means that they prefer products that have a more natural ingredients. And lastly, in terms of prevalence of holistic methods, while some countries may not have Ayurvedic presence, these 3 countries do have Ayurvedic presence and popularity. So I will now be handing it off to Pinak.
Thank you so much, Young-So. And now looking at the markets, before diving deeper into each of these, I will look more into India in detail and see where we are positioned in. So $700 million in the premium beauty industry, 2022. The Ayurvedic segment is at 12%, which is already a pretty good number. And they are growing at a 16% expected growth for the next 5 years, which is above the industry average of India for around 14 to 15%. We can also see that Essential Markets has 30% share in this segment in specific, and this gives us a position of one of the market leaders in an industry trend of the India's market. Now, this is already a pretty big growth number and a pretty good position that we are in. Now imagine if we do first mover advantage into new markets, imagine how much new growth we would achieve with the new exports. So now looking at the new countries we want to go in. We wanted to compare the market size of the overall premium beauty industry, and as we can see, they're all either similar or a lot bigger than India. For example, the US is the one with the highest number. And looking also at competition, we can see how the competition is distributed. They're overall pretty fragmented with a couple of key players. One advantage that we have in each of these countries is Estée Lauder having a good presence in them. So number 2, number 1, number 3 in each of these markets. We believe that Estée Lauder would help us with getting a lot of expertise, a lot of resources, and help us get a good penetration in each of these markets based on being number 1 in the US and the US having the biggest market. If we were to choose only one of them, we would choose to only expand in the US in the beginning. Moreover, looking at India, Estée Lauder does not have a big presence in India, therefore they would not be able to help us much in expanding and, keeping going to India. Given this, we made estimations of what our revenues and profits would be. This would be 3 years after our implementation was began, and this is based on a lot of conservative values and a very timed timeline that we will discuss later. So $40 million revenues, which would equate to a $6 million net profit, and this will give us a 16% profit margin. Again, these are very conservative numbers. We are assuming very low penetration, and we are assuming that Estée Lauder would not help us cover with many of the costs. If you were to cover some costs, for example, retailers and distributors and marketing, we estimated our profit margin would increase to 45%. Now we'll be looking into some risks, and I will pass it back to Yanso.
Thank you, Panak. Now I will be looking into the potential risk of exporting. So there are 4 main risks, and the first is the lack of supply of raw ingredients, and there are 4 ways to mitigate this. The first is to do land aggregation and collaborate with smaller farms. The second is to create gardens for herbs to ensure a better supply of herbs. The third is to diversify the supply chain in terms of the location of resources as well as suppliers. And last is to collaborate with the government to potentially have programs that involves farming and cultivation. A second risk is not being able to fulfill orders in time, and it is vital to invest in the supply chain as mentioned in the first point. And second, it's also vital to maintain a safety stock. The third risk is maintaining a safe and reliable distribution, and one way to mitigate this is to work with distribution partners that are trusted and has a good safety record or are certified in terms of their safety. Finally, because the Indian rupee is not pegged to any other currency, it does pose some threats in terms in foreign exchange. So it is vital to do exposure netting and utilize forward contracts. I will now be handing it off to Thea.
Thanks so much, Yang. So now we will talk a little bit about the positioning of this product in the market, starting with the target customer. So our target customer is going to be women who are 35 to 60 years old. They are well-traveled, well-experienced. They have a high income, which is why this luxury product would work so well for this market. They, again, as I said, are super successful, and they want something new. They want to experience new cultures. They are a little bit tired of their own country and what that has to offer. Now, moving on in how we will target these customers, we will go through with the 4 Ps. And first, we will say the product. We want to simplify the supply chain as much as possible. We understand that raw materials are super scarce, so we will only be targeting one section in each of the countries. In the US and Singapore, we will be doing skincare, and in the UAE, it will be cosmetics. This will be priced according to the luxury market in each one of those regions. And how we will be targeting those with the places, we will first go into the western coast of the United States, because that is where most of the meditation, yoga culture is prevalent. So we want to target that market first because we believe it has the most potential. And it will be in large cities, but small, through first going to e-commerce and then going to small holistic markets and organic stores. This will be done mainly through their website at first because of our target market, as well as through other social media platforms like YouTube to get familiar with the product. Then in the UAE as well, kind of the same thing, but we want to target Sephora because this is where the brand has some experience as well. And in Singapore, we're going to do this as in the small skincare stores as well, but use a little bit more of the word of mouth marketing due to the culture there. Now, as we explained earlier, These customers are very consumer conscious. They know what they're buying. They read the labels. They understand the health and nutrition. So we want to really incorporate the circular economy and their care for the environment into this product. First, with replacement programs, we want to reuse and recycle as much of the product and the packaging especially as possible. And then we want to compost raw materials, and we want sustainable farming. In India, water is a scarce resource, and we understand we're doing a lot of farming, but we need a way to mitigate that, and we believe that water recycling can get us to that goal. Now I will be passing it off to Yanso once again for implementation.
Thank you, Thea. So in terms of implementation, we have an implementation timeline. So we understand that different countries have different rules and regulations, and this can affect the timeline, but we do take the approximate time for this. And so it is a general timeline, and the company can make use of it as they see fit. So in the first year, it's focused on regulatory compliance and also a selection of distribution partner, as well as adapting the product to the market, which will also be led on into year 2, where we also focus on managing the inventory, making sure we have enough supply for the potential demand, and marketing the product to helpfully ensure growth in year 3. So in year 3, it's solely focused on launching the product and selling the product. We will first sell it as an online exclusive item through the official website or the retailer's website, and then we will analyze this and see their growth, and based on whether it's a positive growth or not, the Forest Essentials can decide whether or not they want to release this product offline on other retail stores. Thus, in conclusion, as we have previously discussed, Forest Essentials should expand internationally into the markets of USA, Singapore, and UAE due to factors such as the ease of trade, customers' characteristics, and market opportunities and attractiveness.
Lastly, we believe that Forest Essentials should share that Ayurvedic, very natural ingredients, because we believe it will not only create profit for the company and expand their customer base, but it will also benefit the general consumer. Thank you so much.
My first question is just a small thing I didn't understand in one of your slides. When you talked about ease of expansion, you had a chart that showed tariffs, and there was another column that said non-tariff compliance. I don't know what that means.
So what that column means is how many regulatory requirements, so changing the label, testing, new testing, and things of that nature, so legal aspects.
So for example, in the United States, you got to fill out 31 different forms. Keep it simple.
Yes, that is a great observation, yes. Why we kind of chose that to go along with it is because of the 0% tariff amount and also a very attractive customer base in the United States. Thank you.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about the basis of your decision to expand internationally, because I see 30% of the Indian market is in this general category, of which you have 12%. So that means you're still less than 4% of the market, and your segment, that 12%, is growing pretty fast. So why not just keep growing in India and enjoying the 16% growth of your category rather than expand?
So one of the main goals that the company has is to be a global leader into Ayurvedic luxury, and we are already pretty well established in the market, so the growth rate of the 16% is already part of us, given that we are already a pretty big part of the market, and we will keep on expanding and not follow but continue doing our operations in the same way. And well, given that the goal is to expand internationally, we believe that being the first people to expand and explore markets within this segment, of course, will allow us to just grow much more exponentially in the other given markets.
So I thought you guys did a great job in looking at the macroeconomics of your expansion, the reasons for going to specific countries. But where I think you could have a little bit more color is talk about the microeconomic factors, right? So obviously retail and e-commerce is super important to the expansion and has proven to be e-commerce during COVID specifically.
Yes, thank you. That is a great question. We believe that e-commerce is very well expanded, especially during COVID, but we see with our target demographic, it is 80% of them, especially in the luxury retail market, are shopping in store. So they want that personal experience and they want, face-to-face interaction. They want to ask questions, they want to know the product, they want to test it. So it's going to be a little bit easier to do that in the United States, considering, again, comeback from COVID in all 3 of these countries. But we believe that first we should go into the United States, just because of that interest in that comeback. We see it most in the United States for the retail stores versus UAE, and Singapore is more still online sales.
I think I saw that the U.S. market is around 150 times the size of the Indian market. Okay, about 50 times. Okay, still that's big. You are significantly raw material constrained, right? What happens if you succeed in the U.S.? What if it really, really takes off?
So it is, unfortunately, because it is based on traditional methods, supply chain does have, or the manufacturing does have to stay in India, but there are ways to expand and keep up with supply, and that potentially means working, as we see in the risk and mitigation slide, it's working with government and buying more resources like land, diversifying the supply chain, but there are ways to mitigate this, and yeah.
And I would just like to add one more thing. Our product, so in the slide as well that we were just showing, our product, we want to focus on a niche product in that market. So for example, in the UAE, cosmetics is very important. So we want to only sell cosmetics to reduce. But once we grow, we believe that from our research, subscriptions and personalized products. So ordering for coming just in time, like ordering for that instead of just going to the store. Going to the store, yes, to see the product, but then ordering it personalized maybe could be a step after that as well to limit the supply.
So kind of going to the other gentleman's question, how do you control quality control in these markets from a production standpoint? So if this is such a grassroots product, how are you going to be consistent across the 3 markets?
So if you want to take that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, quality control is important in terms of supply chain and growing exponentially, but it shouldn't be growing exponentially in terms of their market size and economics. It shouldn't, quality control shouldn't be worse, or they shouldn't compromise that. So it is vital to ensure they have a stable quality control, but because they can't do they can't implement technology due to their traditional aspects, they have to perhaps, for instance, have more labor to ensure that they have good quality control.
That's why we decided to stay in India for production, just so we're super close to that production, so we don't never see the product. It's important to be very close to that production as well.
So who's buying this product, in your opinion, and how is that different in each market?
Yes, so we believe women 35 to 60 are going to be buying the product just because of the current customer and kind of the research that we have gone through in the United States especially. So they're going to be higher income because it's a luxury product, of course, and then they're going to be people that are a little bit tired with what the selection right now has to offer. So they're going to want to go out and find something new. So it's people who travel, who are outdoors, and mostly, as you can see, women and higher income women.
So it's the same demographic in each country?
So yes, this was the focus in the United States because that's what we were going to go into first, but it's going to be very similar, higher income women from 35 to 60 in each of the markets.
And then the follow-up question on that is, what do you see as the biggest threat to, because I mean, it's a huge market in the United States as we've seen, right? But in terms of competition, if you're going to go to the United States, have you assessed their competition risk?
Well, we use a lot of Estée Lauder as one of the arguments that would allow us to penetrate the market. And that will be sort of our main point into getting into the market. Now, of course, there are a lot of competitors, and the US is a very saturated market in terms of how many different products we have. We just need to stay focused into our core values of, well, having traditional sources, and also taking into account that the US and the other markets have already a pretty big Indian population, and there's already a pretty decent market and awareness of Ayurveda in those markets. So we would use the core values and the awareness that already exists to kind of keep us on top of the competition. And
to add one more thing to that, we wanted to especially emphasize the importance of expanding into the United States. We're the most optimistic for the market of the United States. In terms of competition, like Pinak said, we used Estée Lauder. We think that their partnership with Forest Essentials is going to be really beneficial in terms of them providing technical knowledge and other insights to help Forest Essentials expand. But in terms of competition, we really believe that Forest Essentials has a really competitive advantage, especially coming out of India and into the United States. Like we said before, they had 3 really unique selling points that we think is going to prove that they're going to be a really popular product in the market with consumers.
You showed, everybody loves revenue and profit margin projections, but as the banker to my left will remind you, we got to worry about the balance sheet too. Entering the U.S. is a pretty capital-intensive exercise. Have you thought about where all that's going to come from? How long can you sustain losses while trying to build a market share here? Just how risky is this move?
So in our decision, we decided going to 3 markets specifically to try to adjust risk. So if it doesn't work with one market, we already have the other markets to kind of adjust into that. We also believe that Estée Lauder would help us with funding, and well, with their expertise, we would, for example, use some of their distribution channels or some of the marketing, and that would really help us adjusting our costs and trying to keep them as down as possible. So in order, if, well, we come up with losses, there's not that many losses. Also, comparing to what our current profits are in India, which we already have pretty well established.
So we'll wrap up with a comment or two. So I love the presentation. I love the flow of it. Good job. I'm a macroeconomic. I studied economics here at State undergrad. I love macroeconomics, but I think where you guys missed the mark is this is a hyper-competitive market, especially in the United States. So my suggestion would be look at the competitors, look what your competitive advantages are, and assess those risks rather than the macroeconomic risks, because that's specific as to what the case is bringing up. And that's where I think you guys may have missed it.
Thank you. That's great feedback. Thank you so much.
Really, really fine presentation. Very smooth, very clear. I agree. If anyone from a faraway place looks at this massive market in the United States and says, we just need a little piece of it. It's extremely competitive. It's terribly expensive to break in, and it's easy to underestimate those risks. I like the other 2 markets a lot. They're much more accessible.
Thank you.
Really nice job. Yes.
Thank you so much.